Good afternoon, class. This is Kevin Rondo with Aviation 242 at Liberty University. Today I'm going to do my GPS presentation on the Garmin G1000 and how technology is making flying safer. As we know, knowing the environment while we're flying around us is obviously going to keep you safe and make you a safer pilot while you're flying. Also, having limitations of not knowing what you are operating, what you're flying with, could also increase the negative impact of not being safe while flying. As in, it would increase your workload, and you can get behind the aircraft pretty fast if you're flying a G1000 and you're not very comfortable operating the G1000. Obviously, proper training can lead to the G1000 being a very valuable and amazing asset for while you're flying around, whether it's VFR, IFR, the continental United States, or Hawaii and Alaska. It can be a great asset for your flying abilities. So, an overview, situational awareness is probably the biggest thing you will get from operating a G1000 aircraft. You'll have the moving map display, the terrain avoidance, traffic notification, live weather with XM, which updates every 15 minutes if it's available in your area, electronic checklist, and easier instrument scanning. Also, I'll cover some training aspects. All right, so let's go over the moving map display. The moving map, also known as the MFD, it's on the multifunctional display. There's also a little bit of a moving map on the PFD, but most people just use the MFD because it's a bigger picture instead of the little small, like about 4-inch screen on the PFD. The position of the aircraft is easily identified by pilots. You just look at the map, you know exactly where you're at, where you're going, which way you're heading, what's around you. This increases, obviously, the awareness of your location and surroundings. I mean, if you're flying near mountains and trees, or big cities or small towns, you know right where you're at very fast. This feature also decreases the amount of time that you'll have to look down at a chart and try to figure out exactly where you're at by looking at land points outside of the airplane, like highways and stuff, and then trying to relate it to the map inside the chart, which will bring your eyes inside the airplane, not scanning outside for traffic and other possible collision items out there. So this feature is really great. I love it. I can quickly look over to the MFD. I see where I'm at and where I'm heading, and I can quickly get my eyes back outside and start scanning for traffic and or obstacles, birds, or mountains. Terrain avoidance. Some G1000s are equipped with synthetic vision, which I've flown a few times when on the mainland. The Hawaiian aircrafts do not have this feature, but it's amazing. I love it. As you're flying, you get that 3D view instantly, and you know exactly what's in front of you or around you as you're flying. So if there's a mountain, you can see it. You can see its elevation, whether you're above it, on course to hit it, or below it. Sorry. You know if you're below the mountain peaks by the colors, or you're going to barely clear it, or if you're well clear of it very fast by seeing the picture, that 3D image. Like I said with the moving map, knowing right where you're at, instead of looking down at the chart and seeing what the elevation is and then comparing it what you're at and doing math to figure out MSL versus AGL, you can just look at the synthetic vision and it paints a real quick 3D picture for you to see. This feature is really amazing to see what the terrain looks like out there, and obviously seeing a picture in front of you of what you're going to fly into is great. I mean, if it's daytime, obviously it's going to be not that big of a deal because you're going to be able to see outside. But if you're in IMC, IFR conditions, this can be very valuable. If there's something in front of you that you could hit, or if you're flying at night, it would be another option, another reason why this would be an amazing feature to have. Traffic notification. This one I like also. It's a valuable tool. We have TCAS on the aircraft I fly for the Air Force, which is Traffic Collision Avoidance System. This is the same kind of principle. Obviously, you can easily identify other aircrafts that are flying in the area. If you're just strictly VFR, not on flight following or nothing, you don't get those traffic notifications from ATC. So by uh, by having this, you can kind of get a quick picture and be like, oh, there's an airplane off to my right, and on the map, and then you look out and help you find them. Also, you'll know exactly how high or lower they are from you because it'll be a little plus 200 or minus 200 to tell you that they're 200 feet above or below you. Usually the traffic is identified when you're within about a 5 mile ring and about 1,200 feet plus or minus of your altitude. Obviously, anything greater than that, it's going to be so far away, it's not a factor at that time. Also, when ATC, if you're on a flight following uh, services under the ATC control, and they'll tell you, hey, there's an aircraft 12 o'clock, 3 miles and 1,000 feet above you, and you're having a hard time finding them, you can look down at your MFD real quick and be like, oh, that's the one he was talking about, and then start scanning back outside, and you can kind of cross-check between the moving map where he's at versus outside and kind of get a better picture, because if he starts going off to the right and then you're still looking at 12 o'clock position, then that doesn't help you very much. Weather avoidance. Most general aviation don't have this capability in their aircrafts unless you are flying an airplane with like a G1000 or a Stratus, a Stratus weather antenna with your iPad, and you might have this feature. But the G1000 gives you the option to have this up-to-date weather every 15 minutes through XM. Weather is updated via the satellite systems, so it'll shoot you down a new picture every 15 minutes what the weather's doing. You can also get airport METARs through this service, so that way you can get the weather where you're going for your location, or if you're just flying along cross country, you can get weather updates for METARs at every airport along your route of flight to kind of give you an idea what the weather's doing. This increases the safety while you're flying, so you don't end up flying into really bad weather. There's some thunderstorms, or if there's like extremely gusty winds or something like that at an airport that you're supposed to land at, you can get the weather a little bit quicker than maybe you can get it on ATIS or IWAS, and then maybe change your plans and divert to another airport by getting the METAR of that airport and changing your plans accordingly. Electronic checklist and instrument scans. Checklists are always available on the MFD. Obviously, when you take off and rotate and the paper checklist goes flying in the back seat, that's not going to happen with the electronic checklist. It's already up there. Or when it goes flying back there and you dig it around and finally get it up, what page were you on? What step number were you on the checklist? You might not remember. Whereas the feature on this, it decreases the possibility of not knowing where you're at on the checklist, because as you start doing the items, you check them off and it'll keep track of where you're at on the checklist. And then instrument scanning. I really like the G1000, the way the instruments are laid out, because obviously most people have flown an older airplane with round dials, or steam gauges as some people call them, and they could be spread out between the left side and the right side of the cockpit display panel. You could have your tack way over here, and you get airspeed here and your vertical speed down here. The G1000 does a great job of putting everything centrally located, so it allows for a quicker scan. Their instruments also, I like, have multiple readouts, so you could have like the round dial display. So if you're really used to flying an old steam gauge, you're probably going to look more towards the arrows on the round dials or the bars on the bar dials versus the numbers that it spits out. So to give you the number and the needles, so that way you have two options. And finally, probably one of the most important things is training. Training is very important when you're operating the G1000 or any advanced avionics package out there. A lack of training could definitely cause you to make this tool less safe while you're flying, because if you don't know how to operate it, it's not really worth having, because then you're going to be fumbling around and focus more attention on how to get a direct to a point on this MFD than you are actually flying the airplane, which could lead to do a CFIT, controlled flight into terrain, or something else for that matter, or mid-air collision or something. Whereas if you're properly trained, you're going to be more able to just quickly go over, hit direct to wherever you want to go, or whatever the situation is, obviously. you're going to be able to do it much quicker pace and actually know how the system operates and how to make the system help you fly safer. And really, with all the amazing training programs that are out there, like we just did King School in this class, I've probably seen about 50 different ones online, and there's amazing videos on YouTube and everywhere else on how to operate the G1000 aircraft or other G1 technically advanced systems like this. There's no reason not to be flying trained and comfortable with the system you're flying, because it's your lives in your hands, and the more comfortable you are operating the system, the better pilot you're going to be, and the less workload you're going to have, and you're going to get to go out and have more fun by just flying around and enjoying it. And in conclusion, I went over the moving mat display and its features. I went over the terrain avoidance and how I could easily paint a beautiful picture with a synthetic vision. Traffic notification, how it can be a benefit to find traffic in the local area as you're flying along. I also covered the live weather feature with the XM if it's available in your area, how you can see possible bad weather in the area and avoid it, as well as getting METARs for your local airports. Covered the benefits of the electronic checklists and the easier instrument scan of the G1000 with the multiple readouts and colorful gauges centrally located, of course. And finally, I covered the training aspect of it and how lack of training makes this equipment useless, because then you're fumbling around not knowing what you're doing and not paying attention to flying the aircraft. So I hope you guys had a wonderful day and enjoyed this presentation. I look forward to seeing your responses.